A quorum is present. We ask our guests and visitors in the rear of the chamber and in the gallery to please stand for the prayer. We ask our Assembly Chaplain, Father Constantine Papadimos, to offer the day's prayer.
Good afternoon. Let us pray. Lord, in you we live and move and have our being. As we gather at this hour to begin the work set before us, we ask for your blessing. Guide our thoughts, our emotions, and our judgments. Lord, fill our life with peace, faith, and hope in you forever. Amen.
We ask our guests and visitors to continue to stand and join us for the flag salute. Please join Assemblymember Swanson as he leads us in the pledge. Mr. Swanson. You may be seated. Reading of the previous day's journal.
Assembly Chamber, Sacramento, Monday, August 16, 2010. The Assembly met at 1 p.m. Honorable Fiona Moss, Speaker Pro Tem of the Assembly, Presiding Chief Clerk E. Dotson Wilson at the desk. Assistant Clerk Timothy Moore.
Ms. Evans moves and Mr. Hagman seconds that the reading of the previous day's journal be dispensed with. Presentations of petitions, there are none. Introduction and reference of bills will be deferred. Reports of committees will be deemed read and amendments deemed adopted. Messages from the Governor, there are none. Messages from the Senate, there are none. Motions and resolutions. The absences for the day will be deemed read and printed in the journal. Ms. Evans, you are recognized.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I request unanimous consent for Assemblymember Hill to have guests and photographers on the floor today.
Without objection.
I request unanimous consent to allow Assembly members Davis and Fletcher to speak on and adjourn in memory today.
Without objection.
And at the request of the author, I request a one-day notice of intent to remove the following bill from the inactive file item A3 SB 145 de Saulnier.
Without objection. Pursuant to Assembly Rule 77.2, I am re-referring the following bills to committee. File Item 65, AB 1373 Liu, to Business Professions and Consumer Protection, and File Item 59, AB 1487 Hill, to the Health Committee. Are we... Mr. Hill, do you have guests here in the chambers today?
I do, but not quite as yet.
Okay. Business on the daily file. Second reading. Clerk will read.
Assembly concurrent Resolution 154, Senate Bill 1058, 1193, 1205, 1230, 1272, 1322, 1357, 1318, 1402, 1425, 1460, 1462, 1494, 1146, 1275, 222, 331, 550, 565, 675, 722, 730, 733, 798, 812, 879, 890, 900, 918, 929, 930, 938, 959, 967, 1040, 1066, 1072, 1116, 1125, 1141, 1154, 1157, 1398 with amendments, 1143 with amendments, 969 with amendments, 56 with amendments, 1214 with amendments, 1391 with amendments, 1414 with amendments, 1440 with amendments, and Senate Bill 991 with amendments.
All bills will be deemed read and amendments deemed adopted. Okay, members, we're going to start with the concurrence file. File Item 54, AB 1746. Clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 1746 by former Assembly Member Emerson and act relating to architects.
Mr. Cook.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. This is a very, very simple bill about architects and their continuing education, and authorizes the California Architects Board to accept self-certification of continuing education requirements for licensing. The amendments in the Senate made clarifying changes. It has enjoyed bipartisan support, has had no votes, and I ask for your concurrence with Senate amendments.
Seeing no further questions or debate, clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Concur, concur. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Ayes 42, no 0. Senate amendments are concurred in. File item 56, AB 898. Clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 898 by Assembly Member Liu, an act relating to documents.
Mr. Liu.
Thank you, Madam Speaker and members. This bill strengthens and clarifies current law pertaining to deceptive business solicitations and reduces the potential for document fraud relative to notary services. The Senate amendments added language pertaining to deceptive business practices and revised the form of certificate that may be used for proof of execution as an instrument. There is no opposition, and I respectfully request you I vote on concurrence.
Seeing no further questions or debate, clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Mr. Liu moves the call. File item 59, AB 1487. Clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 1487 by Assembly Member Hill, an act relating to tissue donation and declaring an urgency thereof to take effect immediately.
Sorry, I believe we moved that bill to Health Committee. We're going to go to file item 63, AB 1004. Clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 1004 by Assembly Member Portantino, an act relating to solid waste.
Mr. Portantino.
Thank you, Madam Speaker and members. AB 1004 is a cleanup measure to last year's AB 274, which was approved by this chamber and signed into law. The bill provides an additional 6 months to facilitate the implementation of last year's bill. The measure has received strong bipartisan support and was approved unanimously in the Senate, and I respectfully ask for an aye vote for this cleanup bill.
Seeing no further questions or debate, clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Ayes 42, no 0. Senate amendments are concurred in. File item 66, AB 1433. Clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 1433 by Assembly Member Ng, an act relating to continuing care retirement communities.
Mr. Ng.
Thank you, Madam Speaker and members. AB 1433 is a follow-up bill to AB 407, which Assembly Member Bell and I authored last year, which addresses permanent closure of continuing care retirement communities. AB 1433 addresses temporary closures, establishes notification requirements, procedures in regards to selecting temporary accommodations and contractual agreements. It's sponsored by Aging Services of California and has bipartisan support. Respectfully request an aye vote.
Seeing no further questions or debate, clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Ayes 48, noes 0. Measure Senate amendments are concurred in. File item 68, AB 1675. Clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 1675 by Assembly Member Hagman, an act relating to trespassing.
Mr. Hagman.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Members, AB 1675 will make a misdemeanor or infraction to enter animals enclosure at a zoo, aquarium, or animal exhibit. Has some technical amendments on the Senate side. Received no votes. I respectfully ask for your aye vote.
Seeing no further questions or debate, clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Ayes 48, no 0. Senate amendments are concurred in. File item 69, AB 1712. Clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 1712 by Assembly Member Furutani, an act relating to school employees.
Mr. Furutani.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. AB 1712 is a bill that creates parity for classified employees who are elected to the legislature. AB 1712 extends the same leave of absence rights given to teachers and community college faculty. Those rights will now be given to classified employees who are elected to the legislature. AB 1712 is a bill that provides a leave of absence so that upon being elected to the legislature, serving your term, and then returning back, getting returned rights back to the position you held previous to being elected. I urge your aye vote.
Mr. Norby.
I rise in opposition to AB 1712. If you're a classified employee or even an instructor that may currently have this protection, and you're considering running for the legislature, and you decide not to because you want to keep your existing job, then maybe you don't belong here. This says that if a person serves in the legislature up to currently by law, it could be 14 years, then they're guaranteed their old job back at a community college. Well, that job may not exist. And if this influences your decision to run for political office, you probably shouldn't do so. And just because certain employees are currently covered by this doesn't mean that expanding this makes it right.
Seeing no further questions or debate, Mr. Furutani, you may close.
Members, this is simply a fairness and equity bill. Term limits make it very much a reality that we're not going to be here the rest of our professional careers. If, like certified staff, as a teacher or as a community college faculty, you have return rights, this bill simply extends that same principle and right to classified employees. I urge and I vote.
Clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Mr. Furutani moves the call. File item 70, AB 1767. Clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 1767 by Assemblymember Hill, an act relating to the healing arts.
Mr. Hill.
Madam Speaker and members, Senate amendments extend the sunset for the Health Professions Education Foundation so that the Medical Board of California and the 125,000 physicians who provide financial support for the program can continue to be represented on the foundation. Members, this bill has strong bipartisan support and had no votes in the Senate. I respectfully ask for your aye vote on the amendments.
Seeing no further questions or debate, clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Ayes 47, noes 3. Senate amendments are concurred in. File item 72, AB 1838. Clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 1838 by Assemblymember Bill Berryhill, an act relating to unlawful detainer.
Mr. Berryhill.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Members, AB 1838 would add San Joaquin County to a pilot program authorized by Assembly Bill 530 of 2009. The bill allows the district attorney to file an action for unlawful detainer against a tenant who commits any nuisance violation relating to the possession or use of illegal controlled substances or illegal weapons. These extreme cases are unbearable for law-abiding neighbors and a huge drain on our dwindling law enforcement resources. Senate amendments merely remove the sunset to 2012 and cap the number of filings to 5 a year for San Joaquin County, ensuring these filings will be used in only the most outrageous circumstances. This legislation will give San Joaquin a valuable tool to help bring these types of activities under control and make our community a little bit safer. Again, those amendments, there is now no opposition. Western Center on Law and Poverty has removed their opposition. There have been no votes. I respectfully ask for an aye vote.
Seeing no further questions or debate, clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Ayes 55, no 0. Senate amendments are concurred in. File item 73, AB 1930. Clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 1930 by Assemblymember De La Torre, an act relating to hazardous waste.
Mr. De La Torre.
Thank you, Madam Speaker and members. The amendments taken for AB 1930 clarified standards, define modified, clarify labeling requirements, and sunset the requirements of the bill on January 1st, 2015. If you all will recall, glass spheres are often used in manufacturing of reflective highway markings. Unfortunately, the there's no standards for the inclusion of high levels of arsenic and lead. This legislation will establish military standards that are already being used in the U.S. military for arsenic and lead in glass spheres. I urge your aye vote.
Seeing no further questions or debate, clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Ayes 56, no 0. Senate amendments are concurred in. File item 74, AB 1956. Clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 1956 by Assemblymember Monning, an act relating to wildlife.
Mr. Monning.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Members, AB 1956, there were amendments taken in the Senate that clarify the exemption that allows nonprofit organizations who participate in the Condor Recovery Program to transport dead carcasses for the purpose of providing food for free-ranging California condors. Amendments also delete reference to the MOU that the Department of Fish and Game has with nonprofit organizations who participate in these programs. I ask for your aye vote.
Seeing no further questions or debate, clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Ayes 41, noes 15. Senate amendments are concurred in. File item 76, AB 2028. Clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 2028 by Assemblymember Hernandez, an act relating to medical marijuana.
Dr. Hernandez.
It has nothing to do with medical marijuana. Madam Speaker, members, file item number 26, AB 2028 would make an exception to the Confidentiality of Medical Information Act for child abuse reports made by healthcare practitioners and others. Recent amendments clarify the exceptions applies to all such reports, both mandatory and authorized by the Child Abuse Reporting Law. This bill has no opposition and received bipartisan support. I respectfully ask for your aye vote.
Seeing no further questions or debate, clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Ayes 56, no 0. Senate amendments are concurred in. File item 77, AB 2217. Clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 2217 by Assemblymember Fuentes, an act relating to jurors.
Mr. Fuentes.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. This bill updates the jury admonishment and contempt of court statutes to reflect the proliferation and almost universal usage of cell phones, BlackBerries, and other modern modes of wireless communication and research. Senate amendments were minor and clarifying. This bill is supported by, there's a lot of support. The bill has received no votes. There is no opposition. I ask for your concurrence in Senate amendments.
Seeing no further questions or debate, clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Ayes 57, no 0. Senate amendments are concurred in. File item 78, AB 2218. Clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 2218 by Assemblymember Fuentes, an act relating to restitution centers.
Mr. Fuentes.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. This bill is a reintroduction of AB 807 from last year, which was vetoed. We removed the mandate on CDCR to reopen 2 restitution centers, which was a reason for the veto. Senate amendments were merely refined legislative findings and declarations language. This bill is sponsored by the California Public Defenders Association and is supported by Crime Victims United and the California Attorneys for Criminal Justice, amongst others. There is no known opposition. I respectfully request your concurrence in Senate amendments.
Seeing no further questions or debate, clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Ayes 45, noes 2. Senate amendments are concurred in. File item 79, AB 2279. Clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 2279 by Assemblymember Evans, an act relating to state property, making appropriation therefore.
Ms. Evans.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Members, this bill authorizes the state to sell surplus property to Napa County that's located between a quarry and Napa State Hospital. Senate amendments are technical and clarifying as far as which property is included, and I respectfully request your concurrence in Senate amendments.
Seeing no further questions or debate, clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Ayes 41, noes 18. Senate amendments are concurred in. File item 80, AB 2382. Clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 2382 by Assemblymember Blumenfield, enacted relating to public post-secondary education.
Mr. Blumenfield.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Members, AB 2382 is an important jobs bill that has received strong bipartisan support in both houses and is back for concurrence with some technical Senate amendments. The bill would create an exemption to California's master plan for higher education to allow 4 physical therapy schools at California State University, including Northridge in my district, to continue preparing our college students to enter one of the top 3 jobs in demand in California. This bill is important to preserving an affordable public school option for California students who want to enter the hot job market for physical therapists. The bill passed this body, the Assembly, with 70 votes and was unanimously supported in the Senate. I ask for your support.
Seeing no further questions or debate, clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Ayes 56, noes 1. Senate amendments are concurred in. File item 82, AB 2464. Clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 2464 by Assemblymember Huffman, enacted relating to vehicles.
Mr. Huffman.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. This is a bill about teen driver safety, and amendments taken in the Senate will require that new teen drivers complete their required 6 hours of professional behind-the-wheel training before they apply for an instruction permit instead of after. It will also require that the instruction permit explicitly state the current law requirement that 50 hours of supervised driving practice must be completed before they receive a driver's license. And finally, it will require driving schools to provide a driving log to students so that they can document those supervised hours of driving practice. This is a bill that has received bipartisan support in both houses and has no opposition. I respectfully request your aye vote.
Mr. Norby.
This bill does have opposition, Madam Speaker. When you and I, or at least most of us in this room, got a driver's license, 16 years was the age at which you could get a driver's license. You have your driver training, there were some requirements, your written test, your driver test, and then you got it. Since then, a plethora of laws, restrictive laws, restricting that right of driving has become a nightmare, not just for teen drivers, but for parents trying to figure out what these laws mean. Additional restrictions on the right to drive are a restriction on the right to freedom. Now, yes, kids may be less safe drivers than older people because they're not as experienced. But these laws don't make these kids safer drivers. They just provide work for driving schools, which have doubtful effectiveness, and they add restrictions which parents have a very difficult time understanding, let alone complying with. The right to drive, the right to travel, is the right to be free, and we shouldn't infantilize or demonize our teenagers by continuing to chip away at that right in the name of safety.
Seeing no further questions or debate, Mr. Huffman, you may close.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I want to remind everyone the data is very, very clear on this. Teen drivers are disproportionately at risk of causing serious accidents and of being injured themselves. And when they have proper behind-the-wheel training and practice, that's one of the most important things we can do to drive those risk factors down, to protect them and to protect the rest of us on the road. So, again, this is a bill with no opposition except for Mr. Norby, and I would respectfully request your aye vote.
Clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Ayes 45, noes 12. Senate amendments are concurred in. File item 84, AB 2632. Clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 2632 by Assemblymember Davis, an act relating to contempt of court.
Mr. Davis.
Thank you, Madam Speaker and members. Today I rise to present 2632, which will remove gang injunction violations from the current list of court orders that are prosecuted under the Penal Code, and instead make gang injunctions violations a standalone offense. Existing law makes a violation of any lawfully issued court order, including a gang injunction, a misdemeanor crime. However, because all violations of court orders are prosecuted under one code subdivision, it is difficult to tell what kind of court order was violated without physically inspecting the court file. The Senate amendments were technical in nature, and I respectfully ask for your aye vote.
Seeing no further questions or debate, clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Ayes 54, noes 1. Senate amendments are concurred in. File item 85, AB 2695. Clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 2695 by Assemblymember Hernandez, an act relating to agriculture and make an appropriation therefore.
Dr. Hernandez.
Thank you, Madam Speaker and members. This bill would authorize the creation of the California Nursery Products Commission. Nursery producers represent the third largest agricultural commodity in our state and employ thousands of individuals. This bill would allow nursery producers to create a commission for the purposes of conducting research, education, and outreach for the benefit of the industry. Recent amendments to the bill were clarifying and technical in nature, and I respectfully ask for your aye vote.
Seeing no further questions or debate, clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Ayes 48, noes 4. Senate amendments are concurred in. Assembly third reading. File item 107, AJR 45. Clerk will read.
Assembly Joint Resolution 45 by Assemblymember Fong relative to lifelong learning accounts.
Mr. Fong.
Thank you, Madam Speaker and members. AJR 45 urges the federal government to create and fund programs that encourage lifelong learning, such as the Lifelong Learning Accounts, LILAs. LILAs are worker-owned, employer-matched, portable accounts that can be used throughout a worker's lifetime. AJR 45 encourages the creation of a program that will give millions of Americans an opportunity to develop the skills necessary to compete in an increasingly knowledge-based economy. Creating savings accounts to finance education and training for career development will enable millions of hardworking men and women to advance their careers and earnings. AJR 45 passed the Labor and Employment Committee with bipartisan support and no opposition. I respectfully request your aye vote.
Seeing no further questions or debate, clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Ayes 52, no 0. Measure passes. File item 108, ACR 1. Passed temporarily. File item 108, AJR 184. Clerk will read.
Assembly concurrent Resolution 184 by Assemblymember Ruskin relative to the Joint Committee on Master Plan for Higher Education.
Mr. Ruskin.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. This resolution contains the results of the needs-based assessment conducted by the Joint Committee on the Master Plan for Higher Education this year. The resolution also recommends that the Joint Committee be reauthorized to complete the work started this year. ACR 65, which created the Joint Committee, sunsets the committee in November of 2010. I want to thank all of the members of the committee, both in the Senate and the Assembly, for your hard work, and respectfully ask for an aye vote.
Mr. Furutani.
Thank you, Madam Speaker and members. I want to take a moment to acknowledge Ira Ruskin, the chair of the Select Committee on the Master Plan, for the excellent leadership that he provided, the discussion that was brought to bear relative to all the different aspects of the Master Plan really was a part of his vision, and I really think that we did a great job. And the bottom line is, after 50 years, the overall Master Plan still overall is applicable to higher education. The only problem is we need to make sure we fund it into the future. Thank you.
Mr. Nielsen.
Madam Speaker, ladies and gentlemen, I would urge an aye vote to allow the committee to continue its work. There were exhaustive hearings, many hearings. Chairman Ruskin did a fine job of giving us an opportunity to thoroughly review the master plan. And a point in reference, in the 80s, the master plan review from the time of introduction of the bill to create the commission till the actual signing of the implementing legislation took 6 years. This year, the committee had only about 6 months to work. It does indeed warrant and cry out for more time. I urge an aye vote.
Seeing no further questions or debate, clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Ayes 58, no 0. Measure passes. Okay, we're going to go back around to some of the concurrence items that we skipped over. Fall item 75, AB 2012. Clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 2012 by Assemblymember Liu, an act relating to cruelty to animals.
Mr. Liu.
Thank you, Madam Speaker and members. This bill will increase the penalty for animal neglect to up to 1 year of incarceration. This allows the penalty for animal neglect to be consistent to that of the penalty for animal abuse. The Senate amendments are technical, and this bill is sponsored by the ASPCA and supported by Humane Society. It has received bipartisan support. Request a aye vote.
Seeing no further questions or debate, clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Ayes 43, noes 10. Senate amendments are concurred in. File item 87, ACR 161. Clerk will read.
Assembly concur Resolution 161 by Assemblymember Bonnie Lowenthal relative to California Nurses Week 2010.
Ms. Lowenthal.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. ACR 161 commemorates California Nurses Week and celebrates the excellent service and care nurses provide to their patients throughout the state. The changes made in the Senate were minor and non-technical. I ask for your aye vote on their concurrence.
We can take a voice vote on this item. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed say nay. The ayes have it. The Senate amendments are concurred in. Okay, members, we are going to Senate third reading. File item 142, SB 1224. Clerk will read.
Senate Bill 1224 by Senator Wright, an act relating to air pollution.
Mr. Hall.
I am at my desk, by the way. Madam Speaker, members, SB 1224 authorizes air districts to adopt rules of regulations or regulations to ensure staff and resources are not used to investigate repeated and unsubstantiated complaints of a nuisance odor. This measure was unanimously supported in Assembly Natural Resources and is supported by a diverse coalition of business organizations and local government. I respectfully ask for your aye vote.
Seeing no further questions or debate, clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Ayes 58, no 0. Measure passes. File item 162, SB 1137. Clerk will read.
Senate Bill 1137 by the Senate Committee on Banking and Finance and Insurance, an act relating to mortgage lending.
Mr. Eng, are you ready on this bill?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. SB 1137 is a cleanup bill to last year's SB 36. SB 36 conformed California to the federal SAFE Act by requiring California's mortgage loan originators to become licensed and to register on a national database. SB 1137 is technical and non-controversial and has no opposition. Its changes will allow the Department of Real Estate and Department of Corporations to more easily administer the SAFE Act in California. Respectfully request an aye vote.
Seeing no further questions or debate, clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Ayes 61, noes 1. Measure passes. File item 167, SB 613. Clerk will read.
Senate Bill 613 by Senator Harman, an act relating to water districts.
Mr. Solorio.
Thank you, Madam Speaker and members. This bill is a district bill. It would significantly reduce the costs of debt for general obligation bonds for the Irvine Ranch Water District. by giving the Irvine Ranch Water District the authority to use the district's overall strong credit rating and obtaining general obligation bonds. This bill would reduce the district cost of debt by millions of dollars annually and in turn save the customers money. I ask for your aye vote.
Seeing no further questions or debate, clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Aye 66, no 0. Measure passes. File item 232, SB 211. Clerk will read.
Senate Bill 211 by Senator Simonian, an act relating to elections.
Mr. Fong.
Speaker and members, Senate Bill 211 seeks to conform state law to federal law regarding the procedures and timelines for holding elections to fill vacancies in the House of Representatives. SB 211 provides that if either 101 members of the House of Representatives or a quarter of the California congressional delegation are wiped out due to a catastrophe, then the Speaker of the House or the Governor of California, respectively, are to issue a proclamation calling for a special election to take place within 49 days of the announcement in order to fill the vacant seats. Members, it is important to preserve our constitutional government, particularly at a time when enemies of the United States might seek to destroy our democratic institutions. A full-strength functioning House sends a powerful message to our enemies, our supporters, and most importantly to all Americans that our democratic institutions will endure. I certainly hope that provisions of SB 211 are never utilized, but it would be penny-wise and pound-foolish not to have the proper framework in place. Senator Simonian and his staff will work closely with the Secretary of State's office to address their concerns, and as a result, this bill enjoys no opposition. I respectfully ask for your aye vote.
Seeing no further questions or debate, clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Aye 65, no 0. Measure passes. File item 241, SB 830 on the amendments. Clerk will read.
Senate Bill 830 with amendments by Assemblymember Cotto.
Mr. Cotto? On the amendments, passed temporarily. File item 259, SB 1179. Clerk will read.
Senate Bill 1179 by Senator Hollingsworth, an act relating to hunting.
Mr. Anderson.
Madam Speaker, members, this is a bipartisan bill. I urge an aye vote.
Seeing no further questions or debate, clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Aye 61, no 0. Measure passes. File item 265, SB 1260. Clerk will read.
Senate Bill 1260 by Senator Yee, an act relating to alcoholic beverages.
Mr. Hagman.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I rise to present Senate Bill 1260 by Senator Yee, relating to restricted service lodging establishments make the sale of beer and wine to their guests and their guests only. Sponsored by the California Hotel and Lodging Association. It's had no votes in either house, and we respectfully ask for your aye vote.
Seeing no further questions or debate, clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Aye 63, no 0. Measure passes. File item 273, SB 1428. Clerk will read.
Senate Bill 1428 by Senator Pavley, an act relating to intercepted communications.
Mr. Liu.
Thank you, Madam Speaker and members. This bill is sponsored by the Los Angeles District Attorney's Office and is designed to update California's existing wiretap law to include new forms of electronic technology. California's original wiretap law was first put on the books in 1989 and designed for telephone use only. Although the law has undergone significant revisions since that time, new forms of technology like BlackBerry, emailing, and phone texting were not considered significant factors. That has now changed, and SB 1428 reenacts all of the basic provisions of our state's wiretap law, including its constitutional protections, but updates the law to include contemporaneous electronic communication. The bill has numerous law enforcement supporters and respectfully request an aye vote.
Seeing no further questions or debate, clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Aye 66, no 0, measure passes. Okay, members, I've taken a pass through the daily file. If you have bills that you wish to take up that we have not taken up, either because you are not here earlier, we're going to go around one more time for those members who are here, but those who did not hear their bill called, if you could come up and let the sergeant know, and we will call your item shortly.
File item 62 AB 658 by Ms. Hayashi. Clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 658 by Assemblymember Hayashi, an act relating to taxation.
Ms. Hayashi.
Thank you. Mr. Speaker and members, AB 658 allows taxpayers to make charitable contribution. The Senate amendments clarify the administration of California Police Activities League contributions. The bill is sponsored by the Alameda County Sheriff's Office. There's no opposition to the bill. I respectfully ask for your aye vote.
Seeing and hearing no objection, clerk will open the roll. All those voters desire to vote. All those voters desire to vote. All those voters desire to vote. All members vote desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Aye 61, no 0. Senate amendments are concurred in. File item 67, AB 1647 by Ms. Hayashi. Clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 1647 by Assemblymember Hayashi, an act relating to athletics.
Ms. Hayashi.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. I request your concurrence in amendments to AB 1647. This is a bill that establishes title protection for certified athletic trainers. The Senate amendments delete provisions relating to heat acclimation programs and other procedural requirements. I respectfully request an aye vote.
Mr. Norby.
Mr. Speaker, it's already difficult enough for public schools to find all the coaches that they need for all the sports programs, boys and girls. Many of them are walk-on coaches that make very little money in terms of their stipend. And to add more restrictions, more licensing requirements, more fees to those individuals is not a way to properly supervise our kids, and will limit opportunities for those kids and for those that are supervising them.
All debate having ceased, Ms. Hayashi, would you like to close?
I respectfully ask for aye vote today.
Clerk will open the roll. All those voters desire to vote. All those voters desire to vote. All members vote desire to vote.
Yeah.
All members vote desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Ayes 47, no 16. Senate amendments are concurred in. We'll move to item 61, AB 384 by Ms. Ma. Clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 384 by Assemblymember Ma, an act relating to taxation.
Ms. Ma.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, AB 384 is back for concurrence. From the Senate, this bill ensures fair and equitable assessment of certified aircraft. Specifically, AB 384 extends the sunset date and provisions of the centralized fleet calculation program. Amendments taken in the Senate removed opposition. AB 384 ensures that administrative efficiencies for both the airlines and counties continue. This bill has received bipartisan support and has received no opposition. Respectfully ask for your aye vote.
Seeing and hearing no debate or discussion, clerk will open the roll. All those voters desire to vote. All those voters desire to vote. All members vote desire to vote. All members vote desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Ayes 66, no 0. Senate amendments are concurred in.
File item 187, SB 1076. Clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 1076 by Senator Price, an act relating to taxation.
Mr. Portantino.
Madam Speaker and members, SB 1076 would allow taxpayers to make voluntary contributions to the Arts Council on their state personal income tax return. The purpose of this bill is to provide an additional source of funding to support the arts within California. I respectfully ask for an aye vote.
Ms. Harkey.
Thank you, Madam Speaker and members. I request an aye vote as well. It's very important right now when we are in such a financial crisis and many of these fundings are being cut off that were previously subsidized by grants, etc., that we allow taxpayers to make this sort of option. The arts are best supported by private dollars, I believe, and I strongly recommend an aye vote for this as well. Thank you.
Clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Ayes 58, noes 2. Measure passes. File item 177, SB 294 on the amendments. Clerk will read.
Senate Bill 294 with amendments by Assemblymember Hayashi.
Ms. Hayashi.
Thank you, Madam Speaker and members. The amendments for SB 294 resolve chaptering conflicts with other two bills. I respectfully ask for your aye vote on the amendments.
Seeing no further questions or debate and without objection, we will take a voice vote on these amendments. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed say nay. The ayes have it. The amendments are adopted. Out to print and back on file. File item 221, SB 282 on the amendments. Clerk will read.
Senate Bill 282 with amendments by Assemblymember Galgiani.
Ms. Galgiani.
Madam Speaker and members, the amendments for Senate Bill 282 make technical clarifying changes at the request of the Department of Justice and the Senate Judiciary Committee, and also include chaptering amendments. I ask that the amendments be adopted, the bill be sent to print, and then back on file.
Seeing no further questions or debate, without objection, we will take a voice vote on these amendments. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed say nay. The ayes have it. The amendments are adopted. Out to print and back on file. File item 241, SB 830 on the amendments. Clerk will read.
Senate Bill 830 with amendments by Assemblymember Cotto.
Mr. Cotto.
Madam Speaker and members, amendments to SB 830 simply avoid chaptering out issues with AB 819 by Calderon. I ask for adoption of the amendments and have the bill go out to print and back on file.
Seeing no further questions or debate and without objection, we will take a voice vote on these amendments. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed say nay. The ayes have it. The amendments are adopted. Out to print and back on file. Okay, we've got 2 items on call. We're going to lift the call on the 2 items. First one, file item 56, AB 898. Clerk will post. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Ayes 48, noes 18. Senate amendments are concurred in. File item 69, AB 1712. Clerk will post. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Ayes 48, noes 23. Senate amendments are concurred in. We're at the consent calendar. We are at the second day consent calendar. Does any member wish to remove an item from the second day consent calendar? Seeing and hearing none, the clerk will read.
Assembly concurrent resolution 180 by Assemblymember Bell relative to the Alcohol and Drug Addiction Recovery Month.
Clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Ayes 66, no 0 on the consent calendar.
Assembly concurrent resolution 181.
Ayes 66, no 0.
Assembly concur in Resolution 185.
I-6600.
House Resolution 34.
I-6600.
Assembly concur in Resolution 178.
I-6600.
Assembly concur in Resolution 179.
I-6600.
Assembly concur in Resolution 182.
I-6600.
Senate concur in Resolution 67.
I-6600.
Senate concur in Resolution 95.
I-6600.
Senate concur in Resolution 111.
I-6600.
Senate concur in Resolution 119.
I-6600.
Senate concur in Resolution 37.
I-6600.
Senate concur in Resolution 105.
I-6600.
And Senate Joint Resolution 25.
I-6600. We have 2 adjourned memories today. Mr. Fletcher, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Members, I rise today to adjourn in memory of Wendy Rice, Natalie Neild, and Amanda Post. These 3 lives were taken in a terrible multi-car accident that occurred last week just outside of Bishop, California. Vans carrying cross-country athletes from California Baptist University were traveling north to a high-altitude training camp in Mammoth. They collided with an SUV, leaving that same camp that included athletes who had recently graduated from Cathedral Catholic High School. In addition to these 3 fatalities, 15 others were injured in a horrific accident. The losses brought the 2 communities together in tragedy. One of them, CBU, is my alma mater. The other, Cathedral Catholic High School, is located in our Assembly District. This tragic accident claimed the life of California Baptist University's cheerleading coach, Wendy Rice. She was very popular on campus, compassionate but tough. A winning recipe that mixed with her 18 years of coaching experience brought her team the first ever National Cheer Association Collegiate Finals earlier this year. Wendy Rice leaves behind a husband and a very young family. The community of Cathedral Catholic High School in San Diego is awful suffering. Among those lost were recent graduates, Amanda Post and Natalie Neild. They were both gifted student athletes on the cross-country and track team. Like many high school graduates, they had big plans for the next few years. Natalie was days away from beginning her freshman year at Loyola Marymount University. While at Cathedral High, she was a student athlete and president of her local Habitat for Humanity club. Amanda Post had dreams of becoming an Olympian. The CIF San Diego section champion of the 800-meter run was headed to Cal Poly San Luis Obispo to continue running. In the aftermath of this tragedy, hundreds of San Diegans gathered to run in memory of these 2 students. Wendy Rice, Amanda Post, and Natalie Neild should all be remembered for their hard work, their kindness, and their commitment to helping and inspiring those around them. Our thoughts and prayers remain with the families of those lost in this tragic, terrible accident, with the injured who are still recovering, and with the students and faculties of both institutions, California Baptist University and Cathedral Catholic High School. Please join me in adjourning in memory of Wendy Rice, Natalie Neild, and Amanda Post.
Thank you, Mr. Davis.
Madam Speaker and members, today I rise to adjourn in memory of Dwight Anthony Radcliffe, who passed away suddenly on July 31st. And Dwight was born in Gulfport, Mississippi on October the 4th, 1954. He grew up in Southern California and graduated from Washington High School located in my district. After graduating, Dwight joined the Air Force and was later president and CEO of Los Angeles Veterans Initiative Incorporation, where he led a nonprofit organization that provides services to more than 2,000 veterans and their families daily, called U.S. Vets. Dwight took pride in his family and extended family. They loved and adored him. He had a generous spirit, and his entire life was dedicated to serving others. Dwight leaves a loving family to cherish his memory, including his wife Paulette, sons Dwight Jr., Dion, Darren, and daughters Brittany and Ebony Radcliffe. He is also survived by his mother, Winifred, and a host of other family members. I ask for your support in this adjournment. Thank you.
Thank you, members. Please bring the names to the desk to be printed in the journal. Members, are there any bills that members wish to take up today? If you do, we'd like to take them up today. Otherwise, I am ready to adjourn for today. There's a lot of Senate bills that don't have Assembly floor jockeys. So we need to make sure that the Senate bills have floor jockeys so we can take the bills up. But if anybody has any bills they'd wish to take up today, please come up to the dais. And also as a reminder for the Assembly bills to contact the floor Senate for floor jockeys on the Senate side. Otherwise, your bills won't be taken up on the Senate side. Okay, we're going to go back. Mr. Fuentes has a bill. File item 57, AB 2212. Clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 2212 by Assemblymember Fuentes, an act relating to minors.
Mr. Fuentes.
Thank you so much, Madam Speaker. This bill codifies an appellate court decision regarding competency to stand trial in juvenile matters. It clarifies that developmental immaturity is an appropriate grounds on which to find a juvenile incompetent to stand trial. We have worked extensively with all stakeholders in crafting language. Amendments in the Senate were clarifying and just further refined the language in the bill. It is supported by the defense bar, the district attorneys, and the courts, among others. There is no opposition. I respectfully ask for concurrence in Senate amendments.
Seeing no further questions or debate, clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Ayes 63, no 0. Senate amendments are concurred in. File item 141, SB 1090 on the amendments. Clerk will read.
Senate Bill 1090 with amendments by Assemblymember Cotto.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Mr. Cotto.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And member, these amendments make technical changes to SB 1090 recommended by the Franchise Tax Board and correct drafting errors in the statute. I ask for your adoption of the amendments and have the bill go out to print and back on file.
Seeing no further questions or debate, and without objection, we will take a voice vote on the amendments. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed say nay. The ayes have it. The amendments are adopted, out to print, and back on file. File item 251, SB 1065. Clerk will read.
Senate Bill 1065 by Senator Walters, an act relating to taxation.
Mr. Nastandi.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Senate Bill 1065 by Senator Mimi Walters brings California tax law into greater conformity with the federal tax laws by relieving an innocent spouse from having to pay the other spouse's portion of income taxes under special circumstances. This has bipartisan support, no known opposition.
Seeing no further questions or debate, clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Ayes 68, no 0. Measure passes. Okay, members, I request unanimous consent to waive the one-day waiting period for bills amended on the Assembly floor yesterday. File item 144, SB 624 by Romero. Floor Manager Liu. File item 146, SB 82, Ms. Hancock. Floor Manager Chesbro. File item 155, SB 1478, Senate Natural Resources. Floor Manager Mr. Huffman. File item 157, SB 399, Fuentes. SB 399, Yee. Floor Manager Fuentes. File item 159, SB 1004, by Mr. Huff. Floor Manager Smythe. File Item 168, SB 1201, Desaunier, Floor Manager Fletcher. File Item 180, SB 782, Yee, Floor Manager Nava. File Item 203, SB 1417, Cox, Floor Manager Nilo. File Item 205, SB 1450, Semidian, Floor Manager Huffman. File Item 207, SB 1454, Desaunier, Floor Manager Chesbro. File Item 209, SB 769, Alquist, Floor Manager Monning. File Item 220, SB 189, Lowenthal, Floor Manager Fior. And File Item 224, SB 1069, Pavley, Floor Manager Fletcher. Without objection, if any of the floor managers are ready to take up their bills, we can take up the bills today. Okay, members, to clarify on the one-day waiver that I just read, we are going to adopt by unanimous consent the following bills. We will adopt by unanimous consent to waive the one-day waiting period for the following bills amended on the Assembly floor yesterday. File Item 146, SB 82. File Item 155, SB 1478. File Item 159, SB 1004. File Item 168, SB 1201. File Item 203, SB 1417. File Item 205, SB 1450. File Item 209, SB 769. File Item 220, SB 189. And File Item 224, SB 1069. The other bills, the remaining bills require a roll call vote. Mr. Hagman objects. Ms. Evans requests an aye vote. Mr. Hagman requests a no vote on the following bills. File Item 144, SB 624. File Item 157, SB 399. File Item 180, SB 782. And File Item 207, SB 1454. So Mr. Hagman objects to waive the one-day waiting period for those bills. Ms. Evan requests an aye vote. Clerk will open the roll. All members vote. Clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Ayes 44, noes 26. Those last set of bills will be waived. One-day waiting period for those bills amended on the Assembly floor yesterday. So if there are floor managers here today on those bills, we are going to take those bills up right now. File Item 155, SB 1478. Clerk will read.
Senate Bill 1478 by the Senate Committee on Natural Resources and Water, an act relating to water conservation.
Mr. Huffman.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. This is a non-controversial bill that makes a technical clarifying amendment to a provision involving water conservation. There's no opposition, and I respectfully request an aye vote.
Seeing no further questions or debate, clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Ayes 72, no 0. Measure passes. File Item 159, SB 1004. Clerk will read.
Senate Bill 1004 by Senator Huff, an act relating to vehicles.
Mr. Smythe.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Members, we took the amendments on this bill yesterday. Quite simply, it revises current law that discourages dealership competition through state salesperson licensing laws to add more flexibility while maintaining industry protections. This bill's had bipartisan support throughout the process. Ask for an aye vote.
Seeing no further questions or debate, clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Ayes 71, no 0. Measure passes. File Item 168, SB 1201. Clerk will read.
Senate Bill 1201 by Senator DeSaulnier, an act relating to sex offenders.
Mr. Fletcher.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. SB 1201 is a parole-related bill that will require that any sex offender who is transferred into California from another state, a federal facility, or a military prison be required to go through the California risk assessment system prior to be put in on California parole. We took amendments to this bill clarifying it yesterday, and I would request your support. Thank you.
Seeing no further questions or debate, clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Ayes 69, no 0. Measure passes. File 180, SB 782. Clerk will read.
Senate Bill 782 by Senator Yi, an act relating to unlawful detainer.
Mr. Nava.
Thank you, Madam Speaker and members. This is Senate Bill 782. Allows tenants to stay in their homes if issued an eviction notice that's based primarily on acts of domestic violence. Ask for an aye vote. Hit the green button this time.
Ms. Harkey.
Madam Speaker and members, some of the opposition to this bill has been removed. It appears that parties have received some kind of compromise in amendments with Senator Yi. The Los Angeles Apartment Association has removed opposition, so has Santa Barbara, and also the California Association of Realtors. So I think we can safely vote for this and know that it has protected the homeowners or the property owners' rights as well. Thank you.
Mr. Norby.
I rise in support as well, Madam Chair. It looks like this is a win-win for apartment owners and tenants both by allowing the apartment owners to get rid of abusive tenants who are abusive not just to their partners but also to the units themselves. So I support it.
Seeing no further questions or debate, clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Ayes 64, noes 2. Measure passes. File item 203, SB 1417. Clerk will read.
Senate Bill 1417 by Senator Cox, an act relating to corporations.
Mr. Nilo.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Members, SB 1417 by Senator Cox improves and updates the laws on humane societies to better serve the public. Our judicial system, and animals that these laws are meant to protect. In summary, it, first of all, will ensure that notice regarding the appointment of humane officers is served to local law enforcement agencies, animal control, and the State Humane Association of California. And second, will require that all humane officers undergo a criminal background check and a physical and mental evaluation. The bill requires that a humane society without a shelter have an agreement in place with other organization that can provide that service for any animals they seize. The bill does not seek to eliminate humane officers. Rather, it increases the standards for humane officers who, after all, have search, seizure, and arrest powers. This is both a public protection issue and an animal protection issue. I ask for your aye vote.
Seeing no further questions or debate, clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Ayes 67, no 0. Measure passes. File item 250, SB 1064. Clerk will read.
Senate Bill 1064 by Senator Alquist, an act relating to stem cells.
Mr. Portantino.
Thank you, Madam Speaker and members. SB 1064 is a consensus measure that clarifies Prop 71, the voter-approved initiative that invested $6 billion in general fund dollars. The goal of SB 1064 is to enhance research by improving oversight and governance of the state agency that oversees implementation of Prop 71, which is known as the California Institute for Regenerative Medicine, increasing operative flexibility of CIRM and guaranteeing benefits to taxpayers for their public investment in stem cell research. SB 1064 has received no votes and is supported by CIRM. It passed out of Assembly Health on consent. There is support on both sides, and I respectfully ask for an aye vote for this important accountability measure.
Seeing no further questions or debate, clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Ayes 72, noes 0. Measure passes. We'd also like to take this opportunity to welcome back Assembly Member Betty Carnett. She is in the front. There's the session schedule is as follows. August 18th, session starting at 9 a.m. This is the last day to amend Political Reform Act bills, last day to notice intent to remove a bill from the inactive file for purposes of amending the bill by the August 20th amendment deadline. Thursday, August 19th, session at 9 a.m. Friday, August 20th, session at 9 a.m. Okay, file item 205, SB 1450. Clerk will read.
Senate Bill 1450 by Senator Simonian, an act relating to water and declaring an urgency thereof to take effect immediately.
Mr. Huffman.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. This is a small but necessary bill affecting part of the historic water package from last year. As you remember, we created a Delta Stewardship Council, and we asked that council to develop some plans and take some actions on a very, very ambitious timeline. Well, already in the course of the first year of implementing that work, we've seen that the Department of General Services' very cumbersome contracting procedures are contributing to some delays. And what this bill proposes to do appropriately is to give the new Delta Stewardship Council the same streamlined contracting procedures that the Department of Water Resources currently has. This will maintain competitive bidding for contracts, but it will give the Council a much better shot at meeting the ambitious deadlines that we've set for it, and I respectfully request an aye vote.
Seeing no further questions or debate, clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Ayes 67, noes 2. Measure passes. File item 220, SB 189. Clerk will read.
Senate Bill 189 by Senator Lowenthal, an act relating to mechanic liens.
Mr. Fuhr.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. This is a very straightforward bill that simply reorganizes the state's mechanics liens laws. It's had no votes, and it should be affirmed here on the floor. I urge an aye vote.
Seeing no further questions or debate, clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Ayes 68, no 0. Measure passes. Pursuant to Assembly Rule 77.2, I am re-referring the following bills to committee. File item 144, SB 624, Romero, to the Rules Committee. Okay, members, I am ready to entertain a motion to adjourn. Ms. Evans moves. Mr. Hagman seconds. That this House stands adjourned until Wednesday, August 18th at 9 a.m. Quorum call is lifted.
Thank you. Okay, vote change. Wait. Sure, no problem. Thank you. File 259, AB Amiano, file 259. SB 1179,